your body thinks that it's still sunlight.
Entrepreneurship. You cannot build a business without having people around you that not only are part of your team.
It's about is they purchase this sofa and they take it with them across the city, across Toronto.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Restless Millennial Podcast, the voice of the motivated youth. Today I'm here with Brett Wiederhold. He's a real estate agent in Toronto, York Region and Simcoe County, and I wanted to get him on the show today to give some real estate tips, real estate advice, I should say, for millennials. So if you're a first-time home buyer and you're going out there to buy your first home, sometimes it can be really confusing. And one of the things that I wanted Brett to come on the show is to kind of clear that whole process up so that when you go out there, you're prepared. But First of all, before we get into that, I just want to ask you, Brett, why did you decide to become a real estate agent and how has the experience been so far?
The experience has been awesome. So I haven't been doing it for a crazy long time. I'd say just under about a year. I got into it, I was a kinesiologist actually. So I was in the health field and it was my fourth year of university and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do after school. And it's like scary life, right? Like after school, you know, the whole world's out there, right?
And I find that time moves so fast, like after you graduate.
Seriously, it's already been a couple years. It's like, wow, like school life goes so much slower. You know what you're doing, right? But yeah, I knew I wanted to help people, and that's why I got into the health field. And so I was a kinesiologist for a little bit, and I decided I could help people with like other ways and financially mostly. So that's kind of why I got into real estate. I found investing super interesting for myself, and I just became more absorbed in it than I did the health field, and so it's just seemed like a natural transition.
So what does a typical day look like as a new agent? I know we were talking a little bit about it off air.
Yeah.
Just explain a little bit about what your daily process is as a real estate agent.
What I like about real estate is there's no typical day. So like you can get a phone call at noon and then your whole evening is completely different than what you thought it was going to be. It's kind of a blessing and a curse sometimes, but that's what I like about it. You know, you're not just showing up to the office every single day and doing the exact same thing. Typical day, the biggest thing I do is prospecting every day. So as like a sole business owner, I have to go find my clients. So I spend 2 to 4 hours a day just kind of cold calling, door knocking, doing awesome stuff like this to try to get my name out there. I'd say 2 to 4 hours is definitely what I put into a day, just trying to find clients and get my name known. And I was actually really surprised that being a real estate agent is a lot more marketing. So I'm like trying to create a brand for myself, how I want to portray my services, and just that first year of owning a business, just trying to define what my business is and who I am and how I want others to perceive me.
Because I've always heard the first year of being a real estate agent is the hardest. But after that, because you start building your clientele, you start building relationships with people that you've sold houses to and stuff. Yeah. And then so you said you do like a lot of YouTube stuff and a lot of like tutorials for like young people, I guess, for investing in real estate.
Exactly.
So what are some mistakes that you think like first-time home buyers or young people, millennials, to make it relevant to the podcast, make when they're going out and doing that kind of thing?
It's honestly, I wouldn't say that millennials or young people or anyone investing in real estate really makes a mistake. I think no one really knows what they're doing for their first time also, right? So I'd say the biggest mistake isn't calling me. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, contacting a realtor early on in the process, just to understand what the process of buying a house looks like. So then you're not just kind of treading water and you actually have like a lane to swim in a way.
So how can you kind of like educate yourself about that process? Because it's one of those things that's not taught in school, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which it really should be. Taxes. Like they should teach you taxes, your finances, and how to do those like adulting things, like buying your first home, even buying a car. Like when I bought my own first car, like my dad did everything, right?
Right.
So in saying that, like where should they even start in terms of
obviously the internet, right? And that's why I'm doing the YouTube videos and really promoting myself on Instagram, because that's where a lot of the millennials kind of are attracted to in their beginning searches, right? It's like hashtag real estate, if you're super curious about it, that's what a lot of people would do, right? So I think obviously online, finding that person or brand that you connect with and reaching out to them. Honestly, like, it doesn't matter if you're 1 to 5 years away from buying that first house. Just having an idea of what like a down payment looks like, how much you have to save for that down payment, anything like that. Like, the real estate agents are there for helping you, and it's a free service, right? Especially as a buyer, you don't have to pay a realtor or anything. So why not take advantage of it?
Perfect. And how much money do you need to really have saved to even begin like starting to have the conversation about going out investing in real estate or, you know, buying a property?
Your first home? Yeah, and that's the issue, unfortunately, and that's why it's
young people.
Yeah,
especially
it's
in Toronto.
really important to sit down with your real estate agent, because what I'll do is the first thing I'll do is do like a lifestyle analysis. So it's like,
what is that exactly?
I made it up in a way.
Oh,
it's
okay.
almost like,
it's not like an official real estate
not
term.
really. No, it's like, who are you, right? And where do you picture yourself living, and what are your goals, right? So like, my slogan's live Bretter. My name is Brett, so it's like, I want to help you live a Bretter life, right? So real estate's more than just like, you know, cash flowing on a property or, you know, somewhere to put your head down at night. To me, it's like, it encapsulates who you are as a person. So I'll sit down with you, for example, and be like, okay, so here's where you are. This is what you do for your job. Where do you think your job's going to take you? What are your goals? Is it going to be a personal residence? Is it going to be for money? How much do you make? Because all of these factors kind of tie in together. And then once we kind of get that story together, then I can give you a better picture of kind of what you're looking to spend. So down payments are normally 20% of the purchase price that you're buying.
And is that for homes under 500,000 on Ontario?
Yeah, it's for all homes. However, there's CMHC. So there's Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. And so that is almost like an insurance that you pay into. And that can be tacked onto your mortgage payment. So then you can put less than 20% down.
Okay.
And that's only for homes under $1 million.
Because I've heard if you don't make a certain amount, like I've heard from friends and stuff, that you need to get like someone of authority, like a parent or a guardian, to co-sign it. Is that true?
For the most part, like, it doesn't hurt. It's almost like when you're renting, having your parent as the guarantor. Right.
Just
so
in
it's
case like you can't make the payments, then those payments are like deferred to them.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So you
I know some parents aren't comfortable with that because, you know, if you don't trust your kids financially, then you're not going to do that.
Got to trust.
But
trust your
it's
kids.
worth it to ask if you're young, I guess, right?
Oh, exactly. And your parents don't have to be on title for that also.
Right.
Like or a huge percentage of title. So you could own 99% of the property, but still have your parents co-sign just on the mortgage kind of thing. So, yeah.
So are there any things that first-time homebuyers should know before getting into it?
Well, there's a couple rebates. So, like, the major thing, first of all, is the CMHC.
Yeah.
You don't have to have 20% to put down. So on a $100,000 home, I wish they existed around here, you'd have to have $20,000 at 20%.
Yeah.
But you can put down $5,000 to $10,000 with this CMHC, so that completely cuts your down payment, which is awesome. Like, even for like, let's say a condo downtown, $500,000, 5% is $25,000. So that's realistic,
manageable,
right?
yeah.
So you can get into it. Sorry, I'm back to the question.
What should young people expect before going out and buying their first home, or, you know, even like investing in real estate?
So as a first-time home buyer, you also get a land transfer tax rebate. So every time that you transfer title, you pay the government money. So as a first-time buyer, you actually get a rebate from that. And if you're buying in Toronto, there's a municipal rebate as well. So Toronto will tax you as well as Ontario will tax you when you're buying real estate.
So if we move more onto the like investment side of real estate, what are the benefits of investing when you're young?
Just like any market. So the real estate market is just like a stock market. It has its ups and downs, and we clearly just saw that in the last year and a bit with that huge housing bubble. And just a little bit off topic, but like the smart people with that housing bubble played it like a stock market. And they sold their personal homes at like record prices at the height of it, and then didn't buy at the same time. They rented for these couple years, waited for the market to come back down, and then now they're in the process of buying. So they're
saving money that way, because let's say they sold for $1 million, then they can get a similar house for like $600.
Exactly, a couple years later. And what'd you spend? Like, you know, maybe $30,000 on rent kind of thing. So you're like bonus, right? So that was really smart just on that topic. But investing side, the benefit that any financial advisor will tell you, any stockbroker will tell you, is just time. So as millennials and young professionals, we've got a lot of time on our hands and we don't realize it, right? But getting into the market as soon as possible, the appreciation on your home will just increase over 20, 30 years. And if you're investing in real estate, for example, buying a student rental wherever, you're getting the students to pay your mortgage. So while the home price rises at inflation, let's say, which is 2% per year, then you're also still getting your mortgage paid down over those years too. And if you do it properly, you're getting money in your pocket every month too.
Right.
So it's like win-win-win.
So would you recommend, let's say you're in your early 20s and you're just out of school, but you have some money saved up. Would you recommend like doing a rental property for students, like with a group of people, like maybe 2 or 3 people, and then kind of like pay off the mortgage like together?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I've heard some friends kind of saying that. Why pay $1,200 in Toronto per room just to rent? Get 3-4 people together and all live together, but be actually working towards something in the end.
Are there some hot markets that you've heard of right now? And for those listeners who are in Ontario,
right, and
know the area, are there some specific markets right now that you would recommend for doing that kind of thing, where you're renting a house to students?
So as a first-time buyer, you won't get all these rebates if it's not your principal residence, first of all.
If you're not living there.
If you're not living there, exactly. So again, it comes down to your lifestyle analysis that I was talking about, because there are markets that I would recommend, like St. Catharines, for example. Like, I love student cities.
What school is near there?
Brock. Yeah,
okay.
And Niagara College also. So that's bonus, right? The GO station is going to full-time service to Niagara Falls. So buying in before that actually happens will help with appreciation. I personally like London because I know the city and I know what I can get for rent. I know where good certain areas are.
Good restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Where you don't want to be renting to people and where you do want to be, right? And there's also that light rail train that's going to be going to London in 15 years.
What is that, like a super high-speed train?
A high-speed train, yeah. So it should connect Toronto to London in the same time that it takes Barrie to Toronto on the
really,
GO train.
Like an hour.
Yeah.
Wow. That's gonna be crazy.
Exactly, but it's that long-term game. So we all have that time as millennials. And who knows if it's going to happen, because with the way politics goes, it changes.
You can actually live in London and work in Toronto and get to work in a reasonable time.
And that's the idea. So I try to find these markets outside of Toronto, especially as a young person wanting to invest, and then waiting on those areas to appreciate.
Yeah.
Obviously Toronto's going to appreciate, but how much higher can a condo go? You know what I mean?
Seriously.
$1 million.
Do you think there's a certain point where it just has to go down?
I think the condo market's been really hot right now because the detached market kind of took a fall, and us millennials are like, okay, let's get in the market. You've got the baby boomers aging, wanting to downsize.
Right.
So there was a lot of demand for smaller kind of dwelling. But yeah, there's got to be a tipping point, because like an 800 square foot condo at $800,000 in Toronto is the same price as like a 5-bedroom detached home with a big lot and a pool sometimes, right? So it's like
insane.
I can't see the condos going crazy high.
Are you predicting a crash in the near future?
Not a crash.
Not a crash, you don't think?
It's just going to level off, and we've already been seeing it level off a little bit.
Yeah.
Like condo prices are still increasing a little bit, but not as like the dramatic change that it was. And detached housing prices are starting to come back up now too. So
true. So if we move more onto, I know you touched on a little bit how you're kind of marketing yourself as a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that you're doing that right now, because I notice a lot of especially older real estate agents even are not as tech savvy in terms of the social media stuff.
Right.
And you can really, especially with the power of social media and the power of the internet, you can really, help out your own personal brand, and if you're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So could you just go into a little bit more in depth of what you've been kind of doing on that platform to market yourself?
On Instagram,
on YouTube,
or
social media,
yeah,
all of it in general.
So first of all, I find it interesting. I was doing a home show a couple weekends ago, which is kind of like old school way of marketing away nowadays, right? And I was just talking to some of the vendors, and one of the vendors mentioned like, yeah, we just sold our home, and I was just curious from like a client perspective how she thought the whole process of working with the realtor was. And she's like, you know what, we didn't end up going with this one agent. We interviewed about 5, and she didn't have Facebook.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Interesting. And this was, a middle-aged lady, right? And I was just surprised that the social media aspect mattered to her on who she hired as a professional. So, yeah, I think it's huge, obviously, to be on social media. It takes a lot of time to be on social media. I didn't realize how much work it was.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding, right? It's because people find value in it. And not only does it help my client when I have it, but also will help people find me to hire me type ideas.
So just so people know, what kind of videos can they find on your social channels?
A lot of them right now has just been focused on investing. Yeah, I'm really passionate about investing in real estate, and I just want to help other people do it. Like, we're richer than we think, as
Scotiabank's slogan.
But it's awesome, and it's funny because they actually target people our age.
For this podcast.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
But we really are richer than we think. Like I said, you can get into a condo for $25,000, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's closer.
And I think that's a lot of the reason why young people say that they can't afford to invest in real estate or to move out, whatever, because they think that you need so much money to save up hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
Whereas you really don't. Like you said, I think it's really powerful that you say that there's ways you can do it without that much money, and especially even if you do the thing where you get a couple of friends and then rent it out to students.
Exactly.
There's ways around it. But then again, if you do it that way, you said you don't get the rebates, right?
Yeah, exactly, because it wouldn't be your principal residence.
Is that only if you're doing it by yourself, and if you're living there? Let's say you rented with 3 people, but you're all going to live there. Do you still get the rebates?
You mean if you bought with 3 people?
Yeah.
If you bought with 3 people,
yeah, that's what I meant.
It would have to be all your primary residence, so you'd all have to live there.
Okay.
So that's the thing. You can't buy these properties.
Let's say if you live in the upstairs, but you rent out the downstairs to students.
So that's fine because you're living there. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So if we're talking a little about personal branding, but I want to ask you one question about the kind of real estate industry as a whole. So there is a lot of uncertainty for sure, and how do you kind of handle that? Because it's a kind of job where you don't get a guaranteed paycheck, and you kind of have to hustle to like anything, it's like starting your own business essentially.
Exactly.
Being a real estate agent. So going from being in school to kind of moving into this new industry, how did you kind of handle that transition?
I'm still handling it, to be honest. It's I don't know. It's just being patient, I would say. As a millennial myself, we all have that instant gratification that we want, and
we're
it's just
obsessed with it.
We are, right? And because it's with the power of credit, we can get things that we wouldn't be able to afford, right? You see people our age driving Porsches and stuff like that. And it's they didn't have $100K to buy that Porsche.
You see a lot of them in Bradford.
Yeah. Or even university students are driving them. I'm like, what the heck? But they didn't have that $100,000 to buy it. They're doing payments on it, right? So with a lot of the life that we have today, we can do payments on everything. And if you take a look at your own kind of spending, we subscribe to so much stuff. It's I'm subscribed to Apple Music and Spotify.
Yeah, you think about 30 years ago, our parents, they didn't have any of those extra subscriptions, right? And it can add up.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where that instant gratification comes from, because it's I can drive that fancy car, but it's it's only $700 a month kind of thing. And we end up justifying it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so patience, 100%. Doing side hustles also, just to get a little bit of
Brett and I both
income.
work at the keg on the side, just so the listeners know.
Yeah,
that's how we kind of met, and that's why he's on the podcast today.
No, exactly. So that that gives me a little bit of stability. I know I can take home X amount of dollars a week type idea, and then just getting out there and hustling, right? Like I said, the prospecting and the branding and networking events and just kind of talking to anyone and everyone about real estate.
What kind of networking events do you go to?
There's actually some in Toronto that are organized young professional networking events, and so
just general networking events, any business owners can go and stuff like that.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you were early on in your real estate career, we'll say, Did you have any mentors or like people you looked up to when you were kind of learning about the industry?
There's a couple people in London, Ontario that are 30s type ideas, so still young and hustling, and they were inspiring. And one of the investors there has like 50 doors, and he's like 30, so that was
Really?
Inspiring.
How long's he been doing real estate?
Like 5-6 years, right? So
Really?
not crazy long, and he's not even a realtor, so he doesn't buy or sell for other people. He just invests. And finally, he was an accountant, so he had good income and was able to buy a couple. But then it just snowballs. He was creative with the way he financed all of everything, and he quit his job and he's a full-time investor now. So that's inspiring.
So like his full-time job is just investing in real estate.
And he does YouTube videos now, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
To teach people.
just for fun, yeah. It's awesome, right?
So he's pretty much a day trader, but just it's not directly in the stock market. It's
No,
just
exactly.
investing in real estate.
And it's just the buy and hold strategy also.
Right.
So you just buy it, you get the cash flow, which is the big one. So he makes money every single month off his properties, right? And it's owning a business, right? Like you analyze your income, your rent, and then you analyze all of your expenses that you're gonna have, right? Do you pay hydro, insurance, taxes, mortgage payments? And so the great thing about real estate is you can play around with those expenses. Like you can, install better lights to decrease your hydro costs and stuff like that. So you can make your bottom line higher also, which is what I like about real estate market over the stock market. With the stock market, I'm just giving my money to some CEO
and you're betting on them too.
Please be good, right? So, yeah, with the real estate market, you have a lot more control over it. I find. You can walk into the house and you can upgrade the kitchen and instantly increase the value.
You can increase the value yourself and doing it independently.
And you can put the sweat equity into it. So then you're the one laying the hardwood and stuff like that, and you're not putting thousands of dollars into a trade also, right? So there's ways to save money and to make money. It's so exciting. There's so many different avenues of it
for real estate.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up today? Any advice or anything? Would you recommend being a real estate agent as a career?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, you have to look inwards and kind of evaluate who you are as a person. Are you okay with the ups and downs of a commission job? I kind of look at it like opening a restaurant too. Like, would you be a person to open a restaurant? Because maybe no one's going to walk through that door on opening day, right? And it's like, how do you market that restaurant? How do you brand it? How do you hustle and get those customers in there? And that's kind of what real estate is, right? And the restaurant industry goes, highs and lows, right? It's
just like the real estate industry.
Exactly. Valentine's Day and Christmas, so busy, but then it's like...
Yeah, and in the heat of the summer, sometimes it dies down completely.
Exactly.
So do you have any long-term goals as a real estate agent? Just as a last question here before we wrap up.
I would love to get into the luxury market, I think, as a long-term goal, because I think you would meet extraordinary people.
And what is the luxury market, just so people know?
Luxury market, I'd say like
luxury
over
homes.
$1.5 million homes. Yeah, just the clientele that you'd be working with. Stuff you see on what is it?
MTV Cribs.
Oh, there's that New York show, $1 Million Listing kind of thing.
There's Buying
right?
the View, I think, is the Toronto equivalent of that show.
So I think that would be a lot of fun. But you got to work your way up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows where it's going to take me. Long-term goal as a realtor, just helping as many people as possible to kind of realize their dreams. Like, real estate can be a vehicle to give you financial independence, which is my ultimate goal with buying rental properties. It can help you save for your child's education. Like, if you have a child that's 10 years old right now, and I guess this isn't speaking to many millennials, but if you have a child that's 10 years old, in 10 years, if you bought one property, you could pay for their education over those just by selling it and having the money from it, right? So
life hack.
It is, right? It's just time.
Yeah.
So advice, final closing, I guess, is, if you find this interesting, reach out to yourself or me. And I love coffee. I drink coffee all day. I'd be happy to get a coffee with anyone and just kind of, like I said, give that lifestyle analysis and put out a plan for the next 5 years and see how we can get you making some money. Yeah.
And how can people get in contact with you?
Instagram probably is the best way. So I don't know.
Your handle is
just Brett Wiederhold, I guess, which is hard to find.
I'll put a link in the blog post,
awesome.
And as well I'll talk about it at the end of the podcast as well. But anyways, thanks so much for being on the show, Brett. And best
Appreciate
of luck
it.
to you.
Thank
And
you.
remember, guys, if you want to get in contact with Brett, help him make your life better.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep hustling, guys. Thanks.